Hello, this is Edward Wilford. I'm Senior Principal Analyst at Omdia, and I'm delighted to welcome Chris Patrick, the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Mobile Handset from Qualcomm Technologies. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Edward.
My pleasure. Chris, we've had access to LLMs, to Gen AI, for about a year and a half now, and I think you'd agree in this mobile era, if people can access it, they pretty much always want to be able to access it on their smartphone. But older hardware models just aren't up for the job. Speak to us about the role of the SoC to proliferate generative AI in smartphones.
AI has always been a part of the smartphone, right? It's been pretty deeply integrated, in fact, into the capabilities of a modern smartphone for quite a number of years. But with this phase of generative AI, now we're using the processors here to actually create content, things that seemed impossible even just a few years ago. Qualcomm demonstrated generative AI capability at Mobile World Congress, which is a big industry show in the smartphone space last year, just early last year. In that case, we showed a demonstration of a smartphone in airplane mode, no connection to the cloud, generating a truly custom image just based on a user prompt, right? So that really created this wave of excitement. And then over the course of that year, we worked with every handset vendor. And then ultimately, by at the end of the year and early in 24, just about everybody in the Android community launched a flagship smartphone using the 8 Gen 3, which is a newest SoC with generative AI capabilities. Again, the SoC is critical here because we need to do things that really were impossible just a few years ago. The horsepower and the computational complexity it takes to create an image, to create brand new text just based on some prompts or some input from content on the phone really needs a whole new level of performance.
Sure. Okay, so we have the hardware now, and you can run this, as you said, entirely on the edge, or even mostly on the edge, however you need to divide it. Let's look at the models themselves. So large companies have created a variety of generative models that mostly live in the cloud. How will cloud-based LLMs progress to smartphones, and what's the developer's role in bringing more Gen AI to consumers?
That's right. There's been incredible innovation actually on the cloud, right? So just about every week or two, we see a new model, a new capability. But many of those models and many of those capabilities are very expensive, right? Very large in terms of data consumption and energy consumption. Yeah, the beauty of really the combination of the cloud and the device is you can have those incredible experiences that require this burst of massive processing on the cloud, but you can also have on your device with you every day, every moment, continuous processing of information. If you think of really building an assistant, for example, that really understands what you need and responds to what you need, you really need to have that with you and pervasive. Even if there's not a connection to the cloud, you need that to be with you and on device. So we see really that's a combination of these cloud experiences and then pervasive, personalized AI that's on device. We think that's the combination that's really going to have a big impact on kind of humankind.
Okay.
In this phase, and you mentioned kind of developers. So in this phase, really a lot of experiences have come directly from the OEMs. So for example, from Samsung, we had an incredible launch of devices from Samsung and partners like Xiaomi and partners like Honor that do incredible things that really they've created themselves. But we see, the next wave is really opening that up to more and more developers. And in that case, really, it's third-party developers. So that's what we see as the next wave of innovation. Again, incredible experiences coming from the manufacturers themselves, but another new set of innovations coming from third-party developers. So we're excited. We're doing a lot to try to create an environment to simulate that creativity. Something called the AI Hub, we also announced at Mobile Congress this year, is going to enable, we think, some pretty exciting experiences on device.
Excellent. Let's talk a bit more about that next wave. So the one thing about the smartphone space that's always true is that it's always evolving. What trends and innovations excite you for the next 6-12 months? What's the big thing on your scorecard for the future?
Yeah, we're excited to see the next wave of these experiences that OEMs are creating. I talk to OEMs just about every day, and each of them has an exciting kind of plan coming for the next wave of handsets on our next premium tier device. So speaking of that premium tier device, we have really ambitious plans on the capabilities we're going to produce. We're going to enable on that platform. We always talk about heterogeneous processing. So we have something called the NPU, which is the neural processing unit. So that's the main kind of driver of a lot of these experiences. But really, it's a collection of processors that really makes the platform very special. So we have in-house kind of leading edge GPU capability. Of course, we talked about the NPU. We have modem capability. One of the things we're deploying this year for the first time in smartphones is a truly custom optimized CPU for smartphones. So that's actually it's going to deploy in the next few weeks on PCs. It's called the Orion Core. And so that's going to be added to that constellation of processors in this brand new 8 device we're going to announce later on this year. So anyway, we think that's going to provide a whole new set of experiences as well.
Fantastic. Well, truly exciting stuff, truly exciting time. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing that with us. So Chris Patrick, again, it leaves me to thank you for joining us today and to thank you for watching. Once again, I'm Edward Wilford from Omdia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.